I remember you told me you went to Nairobi for your education and you were actually there for quite a long time, not just a week or so, but 2 years, I
Yes,
think.
back and
Yes.
forth. I was there for 2.5 years. Yes.
Wow. So you also told me that you met these guys, Donga, Chedas, and Kismart. I think those were
Yes.
the original three guides that you were working with. Now it's eight guides, I think, in total.
Yes, exactly.
But so you explained to me you met them through, you know, I don't know, all kinds of things happen and you met them. Like these things happen when you stay in a place for that long. Um, was it your idea to start this particular business, these guided tours, or who came up with the idea?
Yeah, it was not my idea. So what I did, I learned in this education, I did the social innovation program, which it's called social innovation management. I learned this innovation process, and I followed this innovation process. Many people are familiar with it. It's also called design thinking, and this is what I did in the slum, meeting these three guides, and I co-created Nai Nami, the whole business model, and also the idea. I developed it together with them because they are the people concerned. They are the beneficiaries of Nai Nami. So how can I offer them a solution without having them on board from the beginning? So what
Mm-hmm.
happened, the whole process was we met on an eye level. So it was not me going there and telling them what I see and what the best solution for them would be. So I opened my mind. I went there to the Matare slum, meet with this. I met with different type of youth, with parents, with organizations, with everyone. I wanted to understand the environment first, and then when I came across these three guys, i I could ask them, what's your challenge, what's your what would you change in your life, why, how, whatever, and then we developed the whole idea together. So the only thing that I did was I could see that they felt inferior. Of course, they were at this time they were criminals. The society is looking down on them. People want to see them in a grave, to be honest. And of course, they feel inferior. They know they are just how people look at them is kind of like stray dogs in the city. Like they are not. They are a risk. They are a danger. And I always saw something else in them. I was really fascinated by their street skills because nobody else knows the city better than them. Nobody else has better stories to share than them. And also the energy they had. I was really inspired by it. And I shared this with them. So I told them, hey, this is what I see in you. But of course, this is not enough. So I wanted to prove it to them, and I told them this is an asset and maybe we can create something around this. So I changed their perspective on something they were never paying attention to or something they cannot know themselves. And this is how we came up with the idea of offering a storytelling tour in the city center, not in the slum, in the city center of Nairobi, where they raised themselves as street children, and they could share everything about their life and how they grew up on the streets while walking with tourists through the city. And this is how we started, and they were inspired by the idea, and of course they had to prove it to themselves first that I was right. So I connected them with some foreigners, and then they just started with this tour, and then they realized, hey, people are actually they enjoy it. They even start paying for it, and this really improved their self-esteem, and also it changed their self-concept. So how they look at themselves today is completely different than it used to be.
I think this is probably the most beautiful story of entrepreneurship I've ever heard. Like really, that's kind of like my dream of what I think entrepreneurship could do as well. To have this kind of impact. I think this is I don't even know how to describe it. This impact, like it's magnificent, I think. But I can also imagine, so based on what you explained, so on the one hand, their criminal record and their past really is a hurdle for them that they had to overcome, and also to build that trust relationship with you in the first place. Because I mean, I can only imagine, but like what I would imagine is from their perspective, oh, there's this white guy coming here and trying to change my life, and I can only imagine that that must have been the most difficult part for them as well, to build that trust relationship with you in the first place. Like, how can we know that we can trust him? How can we know that he will actually help us and that he doesn't just make empty promises? Was that something that you ever explicitly talked about with them, or did it just develop implicitly, if that makes any sense? I don't know how
Yeah,
to
it
ask this
happened
question.
naturally. But of course, as you just mentioned, that's the biggest challenge because these guys, they have lived their whole life on the streets. And something I learned or realized is what happens is you lose the skill of trusting someone. So you can never trust people anymore. Even if you want something, it's kind of broken in your brain, or that's at least what I saw in them. So on a rational level, they trust me, but on an emotional level, they can never trust anyone anymore, like fully to 100%. And at
Mm.
the beginning, at the time when they didn't know me, so I had to prove myself step by step, little steps. But I was able to connect with them on an as I said, on this eye level. So we met on an eye level. I was not never superior to them only because I was more educated or a foreigner or whatever. So we also met in their environment. So I was the one who asked questions. I wanted to learn from them. I was inspired by them. So it was actually the opposite. I was kind of a catalyzer. I was just giving inputs, and then I had to prove it to them that I am right what I am saying.
Mm.
And it worked out, but it's of course it's quite an effort. But I enjoyed this journey. It worked out well. At the later stage, once we noticed that the whole concept of the tours is actually working, and we decided, okay, now we found a company, then we split the roles. Of course, my part was um, to um, to do everything with the company, like found the company, do the marketings, implement the processes and everything because they lack of these skills. But their responsibility was to facilitate the tours. So I um, never interfered there. So this is their business. They are the service providers, and I'm the business developer. Let's put it this way. And they know best how to guide a person through town. I never trained them. It was not necessary because naturally, from the beginning, they were the best guys in town because this is this core skill they have, which derives from being a street child.
I think that's
And
actually
this is
how it's supposed to be. Like, really, you embrace what people, well, either they have training for or what they know naturally the best, so to speak. I mean, I think that's kind of like not the secret to success, but like it's kind of obvious. But still, a lot of people don't do it. I don't know.
Yes, because we know. I never wanted to change them. So they are young men between 20 and 30 years old, and you cannot change a person at this age. Like you cannot, especially with such a background, you cannot make them an accountant at the bank. It's
Hmm.
impossible. And also, I didn't want to do this. So I wanted to build on their existing skills, on their identity, and when you look at it from outside perspective, so they used to be street children. They used to live on the streets in the city center, and now, as Nai Nami storytelling guides, they are still on the streets, but not as street children anymore. And they are still applying the same skills, their street skills, but not for stealing anymore, but for sharing stories, for sharing it with tourists and guiding them through this same street. So they are in the same environment, but they changed the role they
Mhm.
have in this environment.
I think that's amazing.